Hi everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of the Ungrownups video transmission. I'm your host Mark, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Hot Toys 1/6 scale The Dark Knight Rises Catwoman, also Selina Kyle. This was a figure I really wanted to get around to reviewing before the end of 2013. Just didn't get around to doing it, and I figured it'd be the very first Hot Toys that I would review in 2014. But the very first Hot Toys figures that I'll be getting in 2014 will actually be Man of Steel. We're already here the first week of January, so Man of Steel Superman will be shipping pretty soon. I think on the 14th, if I'm not mistaken. I've already gotten that email from Sideshow, so that'll be the first purchased figure in 2014 that we review. I picked this up at the end of last year. My wife and I had to go down into South Florida for a conference for my wife, and I went into a very awesome comic book store outside of Boca called Tate's. I had heard about it before, and it's a pretty fantastic comic book store. Pretty much the best comic book store I've ever been into in my life. It was fantastic. It had a huge Hot Toys selection, and I always sort of had this geek fantasy of like walking into a comic book store and actually purchasing a Hot Toys figure off the shelf and walking out the store with it, because typically I've always ordered my figures either off eBay or from Sideshow or from, you know, somewhere in Hong Kong or whatever. So that was kind of like a bucket list thing for me to do, a geek bucket list, I guess. So that's what I did. I picked up the MMS 188 Catwoman here. Pretty standard Dark Knight Rises box, I guess I should say. We've seen this box before. Bane came in the exact same kind of shoebox with the separation, the gold inlay right there. Of course, the credits right here on the back. Very nice textured front. Here on the very front of the box, and if you were to open it up, you would see just there is the Storm is coming with her little lipstick kiss right here, and then if you were to drop it down, you would see the figure, the hands, the pistol, and her goggles right there on the top. But of course, I've already gotten her out. She's been on my shelf for several months now, so figured I would trace the box back out here and do the obligatory box shot. So now that we've already got this figure opened up, we already know what the box looks like. Why don't we get on to the main attraction and check out Catwoman herself? Okay, so now that we've got Miss Kyle opened up out of the package, you can see everything she comes with the exception of the instruction booklet, which is pretty helpful. It talks a lot about her goggles that she has up on top of her head, and they're just kind of like sitting up there, but you can see they are currently removable. I'll put them on in a minute, and we'll leave them on for the rest of the review after we look at her head sculpt. But you can see she does come with. Currently, she's using the two pairs or the pair of fists. She comes with a right hand gun hand, a right hand open palm, relaxed hand. She comes with a right hand. I'm really not sure what this is. It's an open hand for. It looks like holding a gun, but there's no trigger finger, so this could just be a regular holding hand. Although she doesn't come with anything to hold, a left holding hand, and then a relaxed left hand, and of course the obligatory hand pegs, wrist pegs over here. Originally, I had decided to skip Catwoman last year because. I decided to go ahead and bite the bullet and finish off my Avengers team, and so I really wanted to get Black Widow. I guess when it comes down to actresses, I like Scarlett Johansson better than Anne Hathaway, for obvious reasons. And so I guess in my mind I was like, I'd rather just get Black Widow. I really couldn't justify the cost of dropping almost $200 on two female figures clad all in black leather from Hot Toys last year. So I decided to skip her and go ahead and go for Black Widow. So what I wanted to do real quickly is, because in my mind the figures were pretty much the exact same figure, swapping out a little bit on the suit, and of course the head sculpt. But that's certainly not the case. If I bring out Black Widow here, you can see that they are indeed two completely different female figures. They are not the same. You can see how high up Catwoman's shoulders are compared to Black Widow's. You can see that her taking the goggles off. You can see her head is a touch taller. there as well. And if you look in the hips are of course up higher. The breast line is up higher. Everything is just on a taller scale. They have longer legs here. I'm not sure, it could be the exact same female torso underneath, but I just simply don't believe that it's the same body. I haven't investigated by trying to remove the clothing. Would not do that. Something that's this skin tight and fitted, I would not want to try and get off and then get back on again. I'm certainly glad that I do now have both figures in my collection. And just to point out that you can see with the height and proportions, they're simply not the same female body underneath. So they are far from close to being the same figure. So let's get Black Widow out of the way, focus on Catwoman here, and let's zoom in and take a closer look at that head sculpt before we get the goggles on. Okay, zooming in on her face and head sculpt. Let's see if I can tilt her head up just a little bit. You know, I've heard some complaints here and there online, and I've seen a few reviews here and there that have complained about the head sculpt, and I gotta say that I'm really not seeing a whole lot of complaining to do here. I don't see a lot of room for complaints. To me, this is pretty much spot on Anne Hathaway. I think you do have a little bit of issue right here with the hair going into the head, but you can see there on the camera. It's hard to see in person, but you can see that they did take the care to sort of paint the head sculpt with brown paint a little bit to sort of help ease that transition. But you know, with the hair pulled back a little bit better than I have it currently, it's definitely Anne Hathaway. I think her hair is poking out a little bit too much, more than her hair did in the film. But I think any way that you sort of tilt and move her head, I think that's pretty much Anne Hathaway all the way around. Very, very nice. The rooted hair really lays down flatly. And I haven't done anything to the hair to sort of make it this way. I haven't added any product to it. I haven't tried to sculpt it myself. I haven't tried to brush it or trim it in any way. This is pretty much exactly how it came out of the box. In all honesty, I take that back. I do remember now when I took her out, she had one stray hair that was kind of bent and all crazy and crooked, and I did forcefully pluck it out of her hair. I didn't trim it. I did pluck it because it was embedded way far in the back, and I didn't want to try to get in there and trim it, so I did pluck that one hair. So I take that back. But as you can see, it's her hair going all the way down. It lays pretty flat all the way down her back. It feels very nice and soft and very natural. It doesn't feel like doll hair, and it certainly isn't. I'm gonna stop petting her because I clearly understand that I'm a grown man petting a doll hair on camera, so I'm gonna stop petting her now. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and get the goggles on, which is no easy task. I will go ahead and get the goggles pulled down on her eyes, and we'll take a look at the head sculpt with the goggles on, and we'll pretty much leave them on for the rest of the review. Okay, so I got the goggles on here, and first and foremost, I've seen reviews, I've seen some forums and some posts online, and have had a small experience with this myself. But this particular figure, the paint that's used on her head, on her forehead, I actually scuffed her forehead the very first time I ever tried putting the mask on, because I tried putting the mask on. I just personally find that the mask does come apart here at the back. Let me backtrack for a second. The mask does come apart here in the back. It's got a peg and a hole system. You can just plug it into itself. That's pretty much impossible to do with her hair and how stringy it is. Once you start trying to fiddle with it, I think that's just an impossible way to go about putting the mask on the figure. So what I did the very first time was trying to put the mask on at the back first, and then trying to pull the mask down over her forehead. And what I ended up doing was scuffing a black line onto her forehead from the mask. And that's the wrong way. I immediately stopped and was able, through, adding a little bit of slight alcohol to a rag, I was able to buff it off a little bit. I don't think it's very visible anymore. At least I don't see it on camera. So hopefully it's pretty much gone. I was so afraid I was going to damage the paint permanently, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So what I have found the best way is to apply the mask is to pull her hair back as far as you can, as tight as you can, over her ears, so that you do have, you can see that it's pulled back as tight and as close to her head as possible. So just pull the hair back, let it bunch up at the top, but pull the hair back as tight as you can, and then put the mask onto her face. Press it down, get it onto the eye sockets and on the bridge of her nose as tight as you can, and then slowly work the band down around the back of the head. I have found that that is the best way to get the mask sitting as firm as possible on the face and not scuffing the face at all. I do have the camera tilted up a little far. It's because I really wanted you to see the cat ears, quote-unquote ears, as it were. I've seen a lot of reviews where people say that their goggles are very fragile when trying to rotate them around and up and down, and I've seen several reviews where they've actually broken. So, you know, buyer beware, user beware. Be very careful. Luckily, mine don't seem to be that fidgety. Mine seem to be pretty well manufactured. I don't really seem to have that problem, so I consider myself lucky. But you can turn the goggles around. I'm still trying to be very gentle with them when I do, so you can still turn them up like that before rotating them down and placing them on her forehead, or on the front of her mask, like such. You can see all the lighting on the goggles there. Really nice. So for the rest of the review, we'll have them up and we'll have them rotated like she did in the movie, producing, quote-unquote, the cat ears. So why don't we take a look at some of the other detail built into the body and the suit, and move down a little bit from this pretty fantastic head sculpt. Okay, I'm going to go handheld here, and I'm going to move down from her head sculpt and sort of work our way down the suit. You can see that she does have a full zipper here on the front. I don't know if this is actually connected at the top of her neck. I don't really know, because I've never attempted to unzip this, because unlike Black Widow, who did have her full front zip partially the way down in the film, I don't remember at any point Catwoman ever having hers unzipped. So to sort of keep it sort of film accurate, I just keep it zipped up all the way, and I certainly won't unzip it for you pervs out there who want to know. I think that question's been answered before. So you can move down. You can definitely see the texture on her suit. You know, I would say be very careful with that, especially with dust. If you're displaying this figure with outside of a cabinet, because that dust will land and get inside this texture pretty well, and it would probably be quite a pain to sort of clean up. So you can see her the top of her gloves go all the way above the elbow joint. You can see that right there. Sorry if you guys can hear my little man in the background. He's pretty excited in there in the other room. Moving down to her belt, you can see that the belt is loose on her, and you can hang it over either hip, which is pretty nice. This being the front of the belt, I guess the belt buckle here in the front, and the belt is not removable. There is, let's see if I can get her hair out of the way. You see some pouches on the back here. It is not removable. There is, I'm sure there's a hidden seam somewhere, and you could probably crack that seam, but you would have to, again, then like re-glue it to sort of get it back on in its original state, because as such it's not meant to be removed. You can see nice tightness of the suit around the thigh, but if you happen to notice when spun her around here on the back, she doesn't have the tightest fit of the material on her bottom. It's not the tightest fit. It's certainly not as tight as the fit on Black Widow's outfit was. So, but it is nice and tight across the thigh, and you can see the boots go all the way up to mid thigh. They're very, very soft, fake leather material, so it doesn't hinder the articulation in the knees or the feet sort of at all. And definitely want to zoom in here on these boots, because these boots are a killer. So you can see here, zooming out, that they do have sort of the spike heel, colored silver, just like it was in the film. Pretty high boot, and you can even see the teeth at the very top. Let's see if I can, I'll try to zoom in here a little bit closer so you can see that. But yeah, you can see the teeth right there. For grinding or cutting whenever she kicks somebody, or like when she pinned, was it Daggett? Was she pinned Daggett, his arm to the wall? That was pretty cool. So another thing to look at that's pretty awesome, even though I don't remember her being in any rain scenes in the film, is this base here, which is very much a rainy, rain-soaked base. You can see all of the puddles or the raindrops in mid-puddle. Mid-drop all over, and if you look closely you can see the bat symbol has been scratched, maybe by one of her heels raking across it. She's sort of scratched and damaged that bat symbol. And then coming down front, I don't know if this will pick up or not, but it does say Selina Kyle, Catwoman, right there on the front. I haven't even taken the plastic off that yet. So very, very nice figure, lots of nice detail built in for a pretty simple, straightforward figure. So why don't we zoom back out, lock the camera down, and go over articulation a little bit, because I typically don't do that with Hot Toys figures, but she's one that sort of lends herself to it. So let's look and see how fully articulated she really is. Okay, so going over the articulation, this won't take very long because she's pretty straightforward. But I do want to show that, hey, even with the heels, and there being very little foot to ground ratio, you can see that if you have her feet positioned just right, you can stand her up without her base. She will stand on her own without the base, so I do want to show that. With the head, you do have to be careful because of the painted neck and the painted head, but her head is sort of separate from the neck, so you do get a pretty good range of motion any kind of way you want. You just want to be careful about tilting the head down and then turning it left or right. You always want to pick the head up and then turn it. Full range of motion there. You do have a little bit of play in the shoulder. It can go up and down a little bit. You definitely can raise the shoulder up. I know with all of the hoopla that happened at the very end of the year with the Amazing Spider-Man figure and the very thin shoulders and the thin arms, which hers can't be much larger than his were, it's good to see that there's not a lot of problem, or there's not the problem with her arms breaking the same way that Spider-Man experienced. But, you know, you can see that the suit gives quite a bit, and you can get the arm to go up over the head. You get some nice range of motion there. You see that you've got a double articulation point at the elbow, which is super, super nice. And of course, you know, Hot Toys, the hands are on a peg, so it's basically like a very stiff ball joint. So you don't get a lot of movement, but you get some. But that double arm articulation at the elbow is just pretty fantastic. So you can see here that she has got a very nice ab crunch, but and there is padding underneath the suit. You can feel it, that it's not simply suit over skin. There is some padding underneath there. There is some sort of bodysuit underneath. So so that bodysuit hinders, as you can see. She'll crunch over, but then she springs right back up again. So she can lean back a little bit and stay. There's not a lot of, there is movement, but not a lot of staying movement. Maybe if you got in there and took that undersuit off, maybe the body would stay a little bit more when you posed it. So she will turn, but nothing's sticking. Moving this up out of the way so you can see the hips. You can see how much play her suit is going to give her with her hips. So there's quite a bit of a stretch here that you can hear and both hear, feel, and see. So leg can go up quite high. I'm trying not to tilt her back when I do that, but you can see it goes up, but it only goes about there and stays on its own. Doesn't go too far back. You do have double jointed knees, which is always welcome and always fantastic. And you can see that the boots do not hinder that motion at all, which is very nice. And then another point that's really nice here with the feet is that even though you've got the boot, the ankle articulation and the rocker is like right up here, and so you can get a pretty good range of motion there. So you can see, you can get her crouching down on one knee. And we're going to look at poses later in the end, but I just wanted to show you how well articulated Catwoman here is. Really like her showing off her muscles there. It's pretty nice. So that's the articulation here for Catwoman. Pretty nice. A little more than standard, and I'm loving all the double articulation points in the elbows and knees. Such an added bonus for a figure that does a lot of burgling, a lot of sneaking, a lot of crouching and kicking. So, all right. So why don't we get on to some of the poses. She does have a weapon here. I kind of feel like she doesn't have a lot of accessories, so I do kind of feel like I should show off the gun. And I know this isn't zoomed in, but I did want to show that the slide does go back, so the gun does go back, and the magazine does come out. So for it to be such a little small pistol, it does have some nice built-in features. Of course, Hot Toys never skimps on the guns when they make one. So why don't we go ahead and look at Miss Kyle in some of her poses. We'll do a little pose off with her, and then we'll wrap this up with some final thoughts. Dug that little montage of poses and the little cameo of Batman showing up right there at the end. And as you guys know, when it comes to Hot Toys figures, I like to end the review with how the figure is going to go on my shelf. And that's why this pose wasn't in the pose off, is because this is pretty much the pose that I think sort of minimizes the amount of space she takes up on my shelf, number one, because it keeps her pretty much all contained on the base. Excuse me. But it also kind of shows off her character. I think, the hand on the hip is kind of like the sexy, kind of like the powerful, the in control, the stern look. She's self-aware, she's very self-confident in this pose, and sort of like the flippant, gun out to the side, kicking it to the side, kind of whatever, devil may care kind of attitude. So this is definitely how she's going to go on my shelf. And And that's going to about do it for this figure. I'm absolutely thrilled to have her in my collection. I was so excited to pick her up when we were on vacation, and I'm really glad to sort of round out my Dark Knight Rises collection with her. So that's going to about do it for this review. As always, we're going to ask if you dug it. Please like, comment, or subscribe. Be sure to check out all of our brand new toy reviews right here on youtube.com/ungrownups. So until next time, peace.